All right, guys, welcome back to Boots Come in Pairs. Once again, we have another addition to our family. We gave birth to our son last week, so that's why we're not doing an episode, but we are excited to.
Hey, you did not give birth to anybody.
I didn't, no, I did not
To
put
all the ladies out there, he didn't give birth.
we,
A son was born.
the,
Brandon's wife gave birth to their son.
the collective, I was in the room. Does that count?
No, you did not give birth to him.
No, I didn't, I'm not claiming the work, but it's work now. So, but we're happy to be back and talking about baseball. But yeah, thank you for clarifying, Ryan.
Hey, we gotta have respect for all the ladies out there. I don't want
I
to get
don't.
called out for.
I don't feel like that was disrespect. I feel like that was, just being a team player. But we are here again, and so is Blake Snell. He has finally signed a contract, and we continue to see this trend with the Boras clients not getting their money. What do you think about Blake Snell? First off, signing with the Giants, and whatever they're doing over there, but the hesitancy on these Boras clients, especially with the long-term deal and pitchers.
hmm First off, just the reaction to him signing with San Francisco. I think that is an excellent move for them. I think they've been making a lot of sneaky good moves that will uh, be a positive addition for their team. They really weren't too far under 500. They're right around the 500 mark, a couple games under. But adding uh, Matt Chapman and Jorge Soler and Snell, I believe they traded for Robbie Ray as well.
Yep.
I'm not sure
Yep.
if they did,
They do.
but with Snell, you now have a rotation that includes him and Logan Webb
Mm-hmm.
and Robbie Ray. Alex Cobb has thrown some innings since he came into the league. He'll get you some starts. They're trying to turn Jordan Hicks into a starter, which he hasn't pitched super great, but coming from a spot where he's been a reliever his whole career, this might be a nice change of pace for him. And then they also have the young Kyle Harrison, who's 22 and who's pitched really well in the spring. So their bullpen is pretty solid. Camilo Doval has been one of the best closers and relievers in baseball for the past few years. I believe they have both Rogers brothers on their team.
Mm-hmm.
So the staff, the starting staff, and the relievers, that's a really good piece for them to add. Two-time Cy Young winner, a guy who's proven that he can be effective, and getting him at that contract. I mean, 2-year contract with an opt-out after the first year, not not an over $100 million deal. That was another thing I saw kind of in the news highlighted that not one of these clients, they all wanted 100 million, multiple 100 million, long contracts, and none of them even broke 100 million. I think Jordan Montgomery might be the guy who does get that from somebody, but I'm still not sure. They're talking about him holding out possibly until after the season starts to get the contract that he wants.
We're 8 days away from opening day. I don't think someone's going to give him. I mean, it may be, but like at this point, if he wants to pitch this year, he's got to settle in and find a deal and find a team that's willing to take him on. I think there's hesitancy with especially starting pitchers, especially with how fast these guys throw. Tommy John's looming around the corner constantly. Teams don't want another Steven Strasburg. They don't want to give a guy 7 years and then 2 years into the deal blow his arm out and you don't know what you're going to get at the back end. Chris Sale was pretty open about his disappointment with his Red Sox contract, how he felt like even though they won the World Series, he didn't live up to his end of the contract. But that's what you face when you give a guy a 5, 6, 7 year deal, which is what Blake Snell wanted. And then you're right, he signs for a 2 year, which is essentially a 1 year, 20 whatever $1 million, $30 million, whatever it is.
31. He gets
Okay,
31 million
sure.
each year, which is a lot
Yeah,
of money.
about
It's
a
a
million
lot of money.
dollars. It'll be $1 million a start for him. So every time he throws, you could be like, was that worth $1 million? Who knows?
Yeah. But I think it's a nice move for the Giants, and yeah, just kind of moving over to the other side of their roster. Jorge Soler is a nice power bat. You have Conforto out there already, Slater, Yastrzemski. You got some pretty good outfielders on the infield. Chapman for sure solidifies that. I'm not sure who's playing short for them this year, but you do have Lamont Wade at first, who's an on-base machine. The catching situation's a little bit different. I'm kind of hoping, just from a prospect standpoint, that Joey Bart finally breaks through and becomes the guy that they need him to be behind the plate. I heard he's a great guy. I'm hoping that he's not the second failed Georgia Tech catcher. The other one I'm talking about is Matt Wieters. Not that he was a failure, but just colossal great catchers coming out of college who you think they're going to translate to the pro game and be superstars right away, kind of like Adley Rutschman. But Bart really hasn't done that well at the plate as a professional. But the Giants are sneaky. I could very easily see them sneaking into the wild card, taking over the second spot in the division with the Padres sort of rebuilding. Dodgers are the Dodgers, obviously. But I don't know. I like the moves for the Giants. I think they're smart moves, and I think they got deals on 2 of those Boras clients for sure.
They did, yeah. And the problem with the Giants, which you just alluded to, was you're in the same division as the Dodgers, and you're in the same state as the Dodgers. So you're constantly getting compared to these Dodgers that are essentially your rival. And are they of that quality? And this seems like like I said, they got guys on a bargain, but it kind of seems like the patchwork version of the Dodgers. And it kind of seems like the leftover players that maybe the Dodgers didn't feel like spending on. But you know, you're right. It's a good roster. It's a solid roster. They can definitely compete. Make it to the dance. See if you can do anything. That's kind of the approach you got to have, especially if you have not spent the money and the expectation isn't there like it is for the LA team.
Well, market here, because this is the kind of team that Bob Melvin likes to manage. I don't think he's a really he can manage anyone. He's one of the great managers this game has ever seen. But I think he does a lot better with a more scrappy team than a star-studded team. Not that his tenure in San Diego was a failure, but they didn't live up to their expectations. I just think this club is more of Bob Melvin's style, and I think he gets a lot out of them. I'm gonna pick them as my dark horse to make the playoffs. We can mark it too right now.
I wouldn't consider that a dark horse. I think they, especially with the extended wild card, I think they have every chance to make the playoffs, and they have, an okay division. I don't think, like I said, San Diego is not really, they have a good roster, kind of talent-wise. Every guy in the roster is a shortstop. Did you see that? Mm-hmm. Or former shortstop or whatever it is. But I don't think that's crazy to put that out there. Just like John Boy now was talking about, I like the Cubs now, especially with, the adding Bellinger and whatever their moves they've made. So things have changed a little bit with the palette for that, and I don't think the Giants being a playoff team, especially when you're paying a guy $1 million start, shouldn't be that crazy.
Is your friend still not excited?
I couldn't tell you. I'm going to work in 2 weeks, so
you'll have to check in with him.
We will have to see. Any thoughts on, because this kind of ties into that with pitchers in general, on Chris Bassett talking about velocity, and the reason why these guys are having all these arm issues is because teams demand they throw harder. Any comments on what he was saying about how teams are more willing to pay for essentially velocity over, I would say, control or stats or better pitching for that matter?
Mm-hmm. I need to go back and watch the full interview so I can get a gist. I really just heard a soundbite, but it sounded like the point that he was making was that there's a lot of guys out there who can pitch. And by pitch, I mean they can pound the zone. They can pitch into pitch into their defense. They put up stats and numbers, and they don't necessarily light up the radar gun like some of these elite power arms that you see. I think some of the best pitchers in this game ever have been guys who have not thrown the hardest. They've been guys who know how to pitch. I tend to agree with him if that's the point that he's making. Not that it's bad to have velocity. I mean, you got guys who are just like Justin Verlander who are freaks who have the stuff and they're throwing in the high 90s, well into their 40s. But it does take a toll on you. Verlander's kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. Scherzer's starting to fall apart. I think it's starting to catch up to them a little bit with their age. But yeah, I mean, I think you need to go on the entire body of work. And it's just the sexy thing is, okay, this guy, we're going to pay the power hitter, we're going to pay the power arm, but like, let's look at the entire player. Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting take. I'd like to watch the interview in full just to kind of get more of a grasp on it. But
Yeah.
Chris Bassett's a really good pitcher. He's done very well for himself. And yeah, he's kind of that. He's no slouch. He could probably hit mid 90s on a good day, but he mostly works in the low 90s with the stuff. So
Yeah.
I tend to gravitate more towards the pitchers who can really pitch.
Yeah. I would argue that Verlander and Scherzer are the exception of the guys who throw really hard and have success. And yeah, they both had their injuries, but they're both 40. That's success to me. I mean, like, not every guy even gets that far. I would say it's more the Michael Kopechs who had the arm talent, throw really hard, but just can't figure it out, can't keep it under control. I mean, his walk rate is extreme. But also guys can hit 90. So if you're 97, 90, whatever, they can hit that. So if you're not locating it in the right spot, that's why I like guys like, that can pitch like Greg Maddux or Kyle Hendricks where, yeah, if they're not hitting their spot, of course they're getting spanked. But I think it's the same with when you throw hard. You still need to be able to locate. It's still an art. It's still can I deceive this hitter into thinking this is a strike? Can I change his eye level? Can I move it around? If you just throw hard and you have no idea where that ball is going, you're not going to be successful regardless. Mm-hmm. And you're also going to throw your arm out because your arm's not designed to throw 98, 99 miles an hour. So I think that's what he's more getting to is like when you don't give guys who throw low 90s a chance, you force them to throw harder. They go into the pitch lab. It's like, how can I get 5 more miles per hour out of my arm? And what happens is they end up throwing their arm out. And yeah, you go to Tommy John and sometimes you come back and you throw harder, but that's not guaranteed for everybody. And Michael Kopech is one of those names where he's had Tommy John and he's not better. And now he's starting the year in the bullpen. We'll see if he even sticks there because it's just, who knows? Is he going to be more erratic because now he's only got that one inning? But
yeah, and I mean, looking at a guy like Trevor Bauer, who, it's just blowing me away that this guy is not getting a chance to. He's pitching against pro level talent. And I've seen he's joining these squads and pitching against pro teams, just kind of a showcase. But like, he's been in the lab, he's been pitching. He's hitting 99 miles an hour, which is he's capable, but I think he's just trying to do whatever he can to get someone to take a look. And maybe the velocity piece, the increased velocity piece will work for him. But that's a guy who traditionally works in the mid 90s with a bunch of stuff. Even I'm thinking of a guy like Zach Wheeler. Like Zach Wheeler early in his career was a 100-mile-an-hour pitcher. And he could never stay healthy with the Mets, which was a shame because I thought he was the best out of that group of DeGrom and Matt Harvey and Syndergaard. I thought Wheeler had the best stuff. I think his time with the Phillies, he hasn't focused on throwing as hard. He still throws very hard, but he's been working on his stuff more. He's been able to pitch more games. He's been the most valuable pitcher on their team for the last 4+ years or however long he's been there. So he still throws really hard. He's not really in that Bassett range, but I think he's taken a little bit off his fastball in favor of other things just to keep himself on the field.
Yep. And especially like pitch clock has forced guys to not put everything in every pitch as well, which is a good thing. I think you're saving some of these guys some of that. I think it's just going to be a pitching night. We're going to stay with pitching with our next topic. Opening day starters is always a very special thing. Most guys, you say, hey, like, you want to start opening day, it's like, that's an honor. Apparently not for Marcus Stroman, who, as we know, Garrett Cole is dealing with his elbow thing. No surgery for him, but Yankees need an opening day starter. And Marcus Stroman was next in line, and he goes, sorry, dude, I don't want to break my routine. What the heck is he talking about? What's your routine in spring training that you can't get ready for opening day? Like, that's a trivia question, right? When you go to bar trivia, who started opening day for the Yankees in 2024? Well, you would be wrong if you guessed Marcus Stroman because he said no. Any significant thoughts about that? I know there's a little group chat going on. You're like, what's wrong with this guy? I think there's a lot wrong with him. Cubs got off
Yeah.
easy.
I have very mixed feelings about Stroman. I've always been a champion for him. I've always liked his swagger that he has in the mound. He's one of those guys we were just talking about. He's capable of throwing hard, but he's a guy who relies on his stuff, his slider, his sinker, two-seam fastball, moving in and out of the zone. Not a big guy either, but really for a while at least, just went out there and got after it and was a tough SOB. Pitching in the World Baseball Classic when they ended up winning the whole thing, he was very, or I'm pretty sure they won the whole thing when he was on the roster. But there was everything for me to like about the guy. He comes to Chicago. I was very excited about that. Got a bulldog out there. I thought it was truly just the injury bug had bit him when he was in Toronto. But near the end of his tenure with the Cubs, he just was not very tough, and his routine seems to mean more to him than his team. I understand that pitchers have a regimen and they have to follow it if they want to be the best version of themselves. But this is a situation where if you miss your routine by a day, I mean, maybe they give you a rest and another start. This guy is from New York. He's never started an opening day for the Yankees. I don't know if he's a Mets or a Yankees guy, but if you have the opportunity, you're from New York. That's your hometown team. If the Yankees were the team you rooted for growing up and they ask you if you want the ball on opening day, you freaking take it. I don't care what your routine is. Yeah. Take the ball.
I'm not naive. I know how baseball works. Opening day is a big deal, and then people forget about it until the All-Star break. So this is a huge deal to pitch opening day. Everyone's watching the first game. No one cares about the second game of 162. They only care about the first game. And then, like I said, All-Star break, people start paying attention, pennant race picks up, whatever. Why? And they give you an extra day off. I feel like baseball is go, stop, and then we start the everyday routine. There's plenty of time to catch up, man. God forbid you have dead arm midway through the season. You need to skip your routine for a couple of weeks too. It's just so silly. I've never heard
he's gonna get hurt anyways, because he always does. Yeah. And then this won't even matter. But what we will remember is that he declined the opportunity to pitch opening day for the New York Yankees.
Yes. Yeah.
To me, your routine's your routine, but how much are you really pitching, dude? Right now, you're not pitching much. You're not going six. No starters are going 6 or 7 innings now in spring training. So I think this is a major flop on his part, and I hope that these fans call him out for it, and I hope that they're hard on him. Again, I really liked him for a long time. But I just sort of got sick of it. And when the Cubs needed him the most last year, he did not rise to the occasion.
Right.
And that I will remember. And I'm not going to hate on anybody. I want him to have a good rest of his career. But I mean, good riddance, man. Good luck wherever you go. I'm glad you're not on the team that I root for.
The New York media is letting him have it, which is funny. That's kind of why it got brought to my attention, was because they were just lighting him up. But you think about all of the heroic pitching performances of Madison Bumgarner in the postseason, Chris Sale coming out of the bullpen. Is Marcus Stroman going to do that for you in the postseason?
No,
probably not. So, and it just stems from day one. It's if you're not willing to go out there and do this, you could ask any pitcher, they'd probably say yes. Even if they're not qualified, they will say yes because it's such a cool thing to do. Mm-hmm. I'm just more baffled by it. I think it's funny. But not so funny for Aaron Boone, because now he's got to figure out who to throw out there. Maybe it'll be Nestor Cortez if he's healthy.
It is Nasty Nestor. Okay. He's starting game 1. So maybe he'll just follow it up. He's another one of those guys. He doesn't throw super hard, but he's got a lot of junk.
Sure.
And And you know what? I mean, good for him. Nestor has come a long way. He had a really nice season a couple years ago. Good story,
Yep.
and I'm glad that he gets the ball. I
Yep.
mean, that's great. Great
Yep.
for him. Yankees fans should love him.
Yep. The last heavy point we want to get to before we're going to make a couple of predictions here. NFL free agency just started, right? We're like, what, 5 days into it? Baseball free agency has been since last November. There's been more activity in like 2 hours of the NFL free agency than there has been the entire baseball offseason. And it's hard when you're trying to convince people that baseball's fun. What's fun about this? I'm seeing all these NFL teams. There's no one left. There's no one left on the free agent board. They're all taken. They're all gone. Everyone who's worth getting is gone. Why? It's more maddening because I love baseball. I want them to, be a good product. You want to be a good product? Stop being so cheap and start signing these guys and start like I get the 7-year contracts, but like I just couldn't help noticing how fast the text messages were coming in. Like Bears got this guy, this team got this, and it's like bang, bang, bang. It's like baseball should be that from go, right? And I think one of the biggest issues with why that doesn't happen is because there's no salary cap, because there's no salary floor. It gives all these owners an excuse to be like, well, I don't want to spend all my money, or we don't have the room for it. What do you think the biggest problem with the discrepancy between free agencies is?
And I don't know if it's necessarily like there's more players available. I think the number of players is pretty similar. I mean, obviously there are more players on a football roster than there are a baseball roster, but I think it's just getting creative with the salary cap. I mean, some of these NFL teams, it's like, all right, well, I'm going to cut this guy so I could free up this much space, and I'm going to cut this guy so I could free up. Baseball doesn't work like that.
No.
It's not really that way. And the baseball teams, they seem to be so like concerned about, oh, the luxury tax threshold, where the NFL, it's like, this is what you have and that's it. You can't go over. You're not going to get penalized because you're simply not allowed. So maybe it's something where you put in a structured cap. Maybe that's something that you do. Hockey's kind of the same way. You can't sign this if a nice player or a veteran gets cut, you want to clear some cap room, and he signs for the minimum with someone else. Like, you can do that, but baseball, I think, needs to put like a firm cap in. So it's just the way it is. I don't know how the NBA is. I think the NBA is the same way too. I think baseball is the only. Yeah, I think the Major League Baseball is the only one that doesn't have a cap. But that penalty is the luxury tax threshold. Which, where does that money go if they break it? Who gets that money?
The teams that don't spend any money.
Yeah,
it does. It goes back into the pool. I think the most competitively balanced league is the NHL, but they have such a hard cap, and they make it impossible to keep rosters together. I think that's a hard model to follow. Also, players need to be okay with making less, because MLB players do make the most money. They're also some of the most underpaid players too, because you have a mix of both. But like, I think that is the lack of structure is what's causing this. Also, the guaranteed contracts. Football is most of the time not guaranteed unless you're Deshaun Watson. They tend to not be guaranteed. So you sign a 5-year deal. If you only play 2 and they cut you, that's it. You might have dead cap space, but they're not going to pay you. And baseball is the opposite. You're right. You get these big contracts. Alfonso Soriano playing out his 8th year. Finally got traded, but like, you're stuck with that. So when you make these big deals and these big decisions, it's just like you're on the hook for all this money. And if it doesn't go well, you're going to eat it and then be over the tax and whatever. So I think, they need some better structuring, but the union is never going to go for it.
No.
Right. So they're part of the problem. Scott Boras is part of the problem. The players are part of the problem. I don't know how.
Well, maybe someone needs to have a conversation with the MLBPA and Tony Clark. Maybe we can.
Yeah. You want some pointers, but what it does is it just takes all the sting out. Like, it's been so boring watching the hot stove. It's not hot. There's nothing hot about it. It's just like, okay, once in a while we might see a guy we might know that's not a backup catcher get signed, right? Like, that's basically been the offseason.
We've been eating cold soup the whole time.
Yeah. We thought, okay, Shohei gets signed. Here they come. No. Okay,
No.
this guy gets signed. Bellinger gets signed. Now we're going to see 3 or 4 more Boras clients. Nope, about one a week. We're averaging less than one a week, actually. So, and we're, again, 8 days away, and we're still waiting on the last guy. Teams have already moved on. They've already set their rotations. They've already done, like, this is what we're going to do. Jordan Montgomery is a opening day starter.
Yes.
Like, he is. He could
And
be.
he comes out. He just won a World Series.
Yeah,
He was like
great.
the best pitcher on the team. Like, and now he's got no
Yeah.
team. He's got no home.
And you look, not to pound in the NFL, but like normally guys that win a Super Bowl are getting plucked by other teams. Like, oh, we got to have that kind of team, even if he stinks and he's not really the reason why they won. It's like, oh, who's a tight end? Trey Burton. Remember, he had to pass. He did the Eagle thing and did the throw it.
Philly.
Bears got to sign him, right? Because he's a Super Bowl quality guy. Jordan Montgomery just won the World Series for the Rangers and can't get a deal. And again, he wants what he wants. He's pushing.
Yeah, he won't take a deal. I guarantee he's been offered.
I'm sure he's been offered, but it's just the fact that teams aren't willing to meet his demand, which is, again, I get it. It's fine. You want to sign a guy for 7 years, but like, give him something. Like it baffles me, and it stinks because I understand it, but it's not fun. This is not it's not fun.
I bet he'll sign a 3-year deal with someone, and he might be the only Boras client that breaks 100 mil. Maybe.
With opt-outs?
But I could also see him
with opt-outs.
With opt-outs. There will be opt-outs for sure.
Okay.
It's like a standard now.
Yep, absolutely.
He's going to pitch this year for sure. I just don't know who it's going to be. I've heard going back to the Yankees. I've heard Cardinals. I've heard Rangers. I've heard Red Sox. I've heard a lot of different teams. But I mean, why wouldn't you want a guy like that on your team? He's legit. So someone's got to take a flyer on him for sure.
Yeah. And again, it might just be the years that people are hung up on. Because I could see why you wouldn't want to give Blake Snell a 7-year contract. He's going to be 39. We alluded to it with Xander Bogaerts. Is he a Boras client, Bogaerts?
Yeah, I think so.
He's at second base after year 2, and it's like you have 10 more years.
Yeah, of that.
People are getting burned by the Boras contracts, and they're tired of it. They're like, I don't want this guy for 12 seasons. I don't know what my team's going to look like in 12 years. No. Nor do I know what he's going to look like in 12 years. How fast is Jordan Montgomery going to be throwing in 7 years?
Probably low 90s.
Probably low 90s. Well, we'll see. I mean, and he was the other thing is the risk, because like Bellinger, it was like, okay, was this a 1-year thing? Did he figure it out? Montgomery's been on 3 teams now. It's not like this was his first dance, so I can see the flaw in it. But at the same time, you want the big name free agents signed before. Actually, sorry, season started yesterday or today, whatever, this morning in Seoul. So technically, the season has started.
Was that a real game?
That was a real game. Yeah, they play another one tomorrow, or tonight, early this morning, whatever it is. But yeah, they play 2 games. Yeah, 2 games, and then they go back to spring training, and then they start the season again. So
that's dumb.
Sorry for anyone who wanted the 2 hits from Mookie Betts last night.
No. I think we're doing things the exact right way. I like waiting until the last second. I think that is one of the best things about our fantasy baseball league is that we wait until we're through. Yep. Like, because imagine taking Garrett Cole or any of these starters, or I saw Matt McClain for the Reds, who's a nice middle infielder. He's going to have shoulder surgery probably. So it's like I wouldn't want to.
No.
Especially people who play like in these high money leagues. Why would you want to draft early? I want to draft on I would draft the Friday before the Saturday when the season starts, if I could.
Yeah, and it starts on a Thursday.
But we're doing Tuesday.
So
we're doing Tuesday
before the Thursday. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just you see it every year. Guys just throw their arm out, and that's why I also think waiting. Good for Bauer for keep throwing. He's like, I'm gonna be ready for when teams find me. I'm gonna be ready. I don't know if Jordan Montgomery's been throwing. I'm sure he has. But a team's going to get him in, and if he comes in and throws something out in his elbow right away, that's going to look really bad. So hopefully he's been throwing and keeping up with it, because it's hard to come in late and get your throwing program going. But.
Well, I mean, Bauer pitched a whole year in Japan, and he's been pitching against major league talent. Like he's pitching with different countries, but he is pitching against the Dodgers. He's pitching against the Yankees. He's pitching against people.
Yeah.
who he would face. So
Yep.
I think someone needs to take a chance on him. I really do. He didn't. He's proven he still has it, and he didn't do anything wrong. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a Bauer fan, and I'd like him to get a deal
Yeah.
with someone.
Especially at what he's willing to take.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We'll see.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Do you have we were kind of going back and forth on this. A prediction of a player and someone you think is going to click for this season. Because we've been doing a lot of predictions on this show, and we've been mostly right. So we'll kind of finish off with, I don't know what we're going to call this segment. Well, it'll be a short one because we only have 8 days before the season starts. But who's someone you kind of have your eye on and think is going to, make an impact this year?
Yeah. I definitely have some thoughts on some teams, and that's a good question. Kind of catching me off guard a little bit, but
I can start. I can start.
No, it's all good. I do have a couple guys in mind. I did point to it in a previous episode. I believe it was the one with Sean where we were talking about shortstops. I really think that this is the year of Bobby Witt Jr. He's one. And then another player, and I would say that the team as well. I think that Julio Rodriguez is gonna really bust out and show the 5 tools, and I think the Mariners are going to be pretty pesky. I don't think the Astros have it wrapped up. The Mariners, their pitching rotation and their bullpen is solid. And they just have some pesky players, man. CR behind the plate. Crawford has gotten better and better as the years have gone by. Great defensive player, but the offense has really come around. They got Ty France is really good. They got Mitch Haniger back, and he's always played really well for the Mariners when he's been there in his career. Julio is Julio for sure. But yeah, the Mariners and Julio, and I would say Bobby Witt for the Royals. Those kind of are 2 players I have my eye on. And then there's a lot of younger guys too who I think could make some impacts. I'm really excited for this Orioles team, and their young guys are playing really well. Like Kobe Mayo, Jackson Holliday, Colton Cowser. Those are 3 of their top prospects who are very close. Then you got Kierstad coming up. You have Gunnar Henderson. You have Adley Rutschman leading the charge. Austin Hayes, Cedric Mullins. Their pitching staff, Corbin's over there. Bradish is hurt for a little bit. Hopefully he comes back. But Grayson Rodriguez, I anticipate him having a nice breakout season. They're young fireballer, and they have a nice back end to their relief, their bullpen too. So I'm excited for the Orioles. I will definitely be watching a lot of Orioles baseball and Cubs baseball, and obviously Athletics baseball as well.
Does Jackson Holliday make the team?
I don't think he starts with them. He's done everything that he needs to do, but what's really tough is just not that there's anyone in his way, but Gunnar Henderson's a really good shortstop. He can also slide over to third, but there's so many. They're so jam packed at that third short area. So yeah, Henderson and Holliday can both play short. Henderson can also play third, but Kobe Mayo can also play third, and he plays a little bit of second as well. So they're just loaded. If he made it, I think it'd be really cool. I don't think he makes the opening day roster, but we will see him this year.
I think you send him down just so he plays. You don't want him sitting on the bench. Same with PCA. Like, you got to have these guys playing every single day. And I think Jackson Holliday will only get better. He's had a great spring. He's done really amazing things. He kills the ball. He's fast. But if he's not on your opening roster being your starting shortstop or second baseman or wherever he's at, you set him down in AAA. You don't have him sit on your bench. He's not a role player yet. He can be a part of your postseason team. I think you're right. Late season call-up, be a dynamic playmaker after he's had another full season under his belt. But yeah, you can't have him spot starting.
He'll be up He'll be up by May at the latest.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Do you
did you
think?
see? Did you see that
Oh,
that ball he beat out where he smoked it up the middle at
to Bichette.
Bichette and
Yeah.
Bichette
Yep.
fielded it on one hop and he just kind of winged it over there. Not a weak throw,
No,
but not a lot of zip on it, and
he
he
was
was
out though.
flying.
He was. I know that guy called him safe. He was out. I understand the
Yeah,
hustle, but he was out.
yeah.
Like
He
I
was
don't think they
really
breathed.
it was a lot closer than it should have been.
He,
I don't think it was a timing thing like with Dansby.
no, no, no.
I think that Holiday just busted
Well,
it out of the box.
this is one of those things. Remember Chris Bryant when he first comes up, he's beating out these balls, these ground balls to shortstop and third base because people are like, oh, I can take my time. They will catch on to that with Jackson Holiday, and not that he shouldn't do it, but fielders are not going to wait. They're not going to
No.
like, and not that Bo Bichette waited, but he's going to get rid of that ball. He knows, okay, this ball's hit. I got to be fast because he's booking down the line. Good that he's doing that because he will put pressure on the infield, but teams will catch on, and he may not beat him out even though he's running hard, which is fine. It's still good hustle. It's still good. I'd rather see that than Tim Anderson, lollygagging around the corner and barely gets a double. Um, your other one was Bobby Witt too. Do you think the Royals' success will mask his success? Because he could break out. He could be a really good player. But if the Royals are bad, no one may notice. That might be the
I
other thing.
don't I don't think so. I think he's too good of a talent. It's just like Mike Trout, right?
Mm,
I mean, the Angels have made it to the playoffs one time his entire career,
yeah.
and they haven't really been at the top of the division a whole lot. But Mike Trout's just so good, and or I wouldn't even say good, I would say great. He's so great that the greatness shines through, and you're going to see him lighting up the box score. So I don't think that it affects him at all. I just hope that he continues to be himself and do well despite what happens. I mean, the Central is very wide open.
Mm,
I still don't see the Royals being at the top. I'm kind of excited to see what the Tigers do. Um, Not that I'm trying to be biased for my home state, but they're having a nice. Not that spring matters, but they're having a nice spring. They're having a lot of guys returning. They have a lot of nice pieces. They've gotten a lot of sneaky free agent signings. They got a good. They're young guys that hopefully you get a good season out of Casey Mize and Fado and Tariq Skubal. They're saying is going to be a dark horse to
yeah.
be a Cy Young candidate. He's really good. They signed Kenta Maeda. They signed Jack Flaherty. They have a nice bullpen. You got Torque. You have Veerling. You have Kerry Carpenter. You have all these guys on their team. Hopefully, Hobby can contribute to that too. But
He's got
they're
two
in
hits.
Riley.
He's got two
Yeah,
hits this spring.
yeah.
What is he doing?
Riley Green. They have a nice team. I would be. I'm hoping to. I spent the weekend in Detroit and had a wonderful time. It's becoming such a great city, and they're cleaning things up, and it's vibrant, and people are out doing stuff. I'm hoping to spend a lot of time in Detroit this summer and going to a lot of those games, and I think that the product on the field is going to match the energy in the city for sure.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Tigers baseball too, so I'll probably watch them also.
Yeah. For me, it's I I wanted to go to free agency and then maybe the Cubs sign him. I think Zach Wheeler is poised to win the Cy Young this year, and I think the
Yeah.
Phillies are poised to win the World Series. They've been
Mm-hmm.
kind of knocking on the door. I think they were a couple years premature. Bryce Harper hasn't been healthy. I think they put it together this year and they win the whole thing. I don't care what the Dodgers have done signing all these guys. It does not matter. I think
No.
their team cohesively, they didn't add much this offseason, but it's more so that they're just going to be more healthy. And now Harper's at first base. Trey Turner's settled into Philly now. I think that's the team to beat out of the National League. It's not the
Yeah.
Braves. It's not the Dodgers. I think that would be my take of what I'm predicting would be that Philadelphia wins the World Series and Zach Wheeler possibly the Cy Young. I just think
Well,
he's
looking at it, what did they really need to add? They didn't need
no,
to add anything.
nope.
I think the only thing they really did, they not tracked. They locked up Nola. Didn't they sign one other? I think there was one other signing that they might have made. I can't
If
think
it
of it
is,
at
I
the
can't think
moment.
of it. But they have Castellanos, they have Schwarber's there. I mean, they have
Stott,
yeah. They let Hoskins walk, which they didn't were
yeah,
using him anyways. Because now you have
didn't
Harper
need
at
him.
first, and yeah, Alec Boehm is really good. They have a good roster. They just have a good team, and they've been on the cusp, kind of like we were talking about last year with Baltimore. Is like you need that postseason success, even if you just get there and lose. You need something to go into the next season and possibly win it. Philly's been there. They were in the World Series. They lost. They should have gone last year. They lost to the Diamondbacks. I think they're ready to go.
I'm looking at their roster right now.
JT Realmuto, like
I
it's
want to
good.
see they were so they have Taiwan Walker too,
Okay, yeah, that's
which
fine.
he's decent. Um,
But I just
who else did they
yeah,
get? Oh, Whit Merrifield.
okay, sure,
They
that's fine.
signed him,
5 years too
which is
late,
a
but that's fine.
nice.
Yeah,
That's a well. That's still a nice player.
yeah, that's just a good signing for a good team. Like he doesn't have
Yeah,
to be everything; he can just be a piece. So,
yeah, and they
um,
have Christian Pache too.
sure.
So and Marsh and all those guys. They're I could agree with that. Is there a hitter who
Yeah, that
you think is gonna?
I didn't think too deeply about. Gosh, I couldn't even. Not off the top of my head, no. Today was a pitching day. I've been so focused on pitching,
Mhm.
but hitters, oh, we'll see if I have one before then. But after the first game of the season, we can. I mean, I think Mookie Betts moving to the infield. Now he's going to be a shortstop. I think he should be. If he plays a full season shortstop, he should be MVP as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
I'll throw that in there. Another solid year for Mookie Betts. Not that that's going to surprise anybody, but I just think him being in the infield and just being another focal point will be that much more fun.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Very excited. I can't believe that we're already here.
Yeah,
Less than 2 weeks away. Um, minor league coming shortly behind that too. Can't again. So it's crazy how fast the time passes. It feels like we were just starting this thing during the World Series, talking about all that. But yeah, we've just kind of carried on. Now in our 22nd episode. Just cool that the time has passed in a good way. Lots of good things have happened. Lots of good changes have happened. Just excited for another summer, glorious summer of baseball, and getting little buddy to his first game for sure.
yeah. We'll see where that's at, but at some point we will get out of the house.
Yeah.
But until then, we will just continue to talk about it because this is a good avenue for us to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
until next time, boots come in pairs.
Peace, y'all.